Symbolism in architecture is a very, very generic topic. You know the kind of architecture I am into. So this is the biggest township in the country right now, 30 million square feet we are doing in heart of Mumbai, that is Worli. And already the construction is going on. The layout, we have got tallest commercial building, we have got 74 floors, 10 towers there and 33 numbers of 40-story buildings. This is the kind of architecture, like Tushar Bhai said, this is our bread, butter and jam. I understood what jam is actually. That is under the table money. We don't think. We are doing more than 90 towers currently in Mumbai, 50-story plus. So this is what is our practice. We do commercial architecture. We try to bring something different onto the table. So my buildings look little different. So I presented this building last year, and this was that time the tallest occupied building. It is no more. And Mumbai is picking up in such a fast pace. Now this is 17th tallest building. It was 6th tallest building under construction, but the occupied top one. But then now it is no more. But we got around 39 international awards for this building, including the best residential high-rise building in the world. This is a Le Grand Chateau. We got Best Residential Layout Award in 2008 in Dubai. Completed project in Nagpur, a hotel. It's a clubhouse, 35 acres property. No, I don't really want to show you all this. This is the kind of architecture we are doing. Everything is there, classical, modern, super modern. And then you saw that commercial building which was parametric, exoskeleton. But the topic today is symbolism. And symbolism starts with perception. So we all know the story of elephant, how people look at things differently according to their mindset and how they perceive things. Something which is very complicated can become very simple for others. So it's just a perception. Then there is something called as religious symbolism, where every figure has got some meaning, thought process behind it, there is some culture behind it, some history is there, and that is how we perceive things. When there is a Om, we immediately understand what Om is. Religious symbolism creates an impact in our mind, and it is for lifelong. Then there is something called a hidden symbolism. When I was doing this Grand Relic Stupa project in Delhi, I was competing for that. There I came to know the stupa is a representation of sitting Buddha. So there is a hidden geometry and hidden symbolism in even stupa. Then there is abstract symbolism. So we all either appreciate or we denounce architecture by this. Every time I go to some city in the world and I see his building, then we go particularly and see his building, we appreciate, but we always say this is not our kind of architecture and we are not going to do it. That is something which is called abstract symbolism, and Mr. Gehry can speak hours and hours on that particular building, which we don't understand. It looks like a crumpled piece of paper. Then deceiving symbolism is like we don't really or understand what is being shown, and it has got different metaphors. You can see it's a face of a girl, or it's a person with the saxophone, the dual meaning, or buildings which are like melting. These kind of symbolisms are also there. We know a museum at Louvre. This is one project we are doing in Mumbai. It's called Marathi Bhasha Bhavan. So when it started, the Chief Minister asked us to give a character. Now what character you give to particularly Marathi Bhasha Bhavan, which is a kind of office and a museum of Marathi language. So people came up with different ideas. Recently somebody came with the idea of a Maharashtrian fort. But when you show Maharashtrian fort, it will not depict the purpose of the building. And this place is on the Queen's Necklace. Art Nouveau and Art Deco buildings are there. And this is one building which is very tiny plot, and I have to give a character. So if I make a classical building just to show a museum or something which is a historical building, it is not going to serve the purpose. So I went for a symbolism. And when it comes to Bhasha, there are two different ways of symbolizing language. On one side is a written language, and other side it's a spoken language. So we tried to take both of them. So we studied the history, and we saw those coins and then those shilalekhs where Marathi, these scripts are there. there are some tamra pots where they used to put it on the copper plates, and then there were shlokas on that. So if we take that, and this can become part of the interior. But when it came to exterior, I thought of putting these stacks of books, and because the floors were of different heights, if you see, every floor has got different purpose. I've got one auditorium, I've got exhibition, and then there is a height restriction because of the heritage precinct restriction. Use those different heights of book. If I take any uniform kind of architectural language, then it will become, levels are different. But because I took that concept of books, I could match that. Then again, this is exactly in front of sea. So when the building is in front of sea, there are double reflection of light. One is from sea, the other is the skylight, what we directly get on the surface. And the client wanted to get the maximum view of the sea, because it's a Queen's Necklace, so three side, 360-degree view is there. And I have got a building which is protruding out. So I had to do a dual kind of function, I had to achieve dual functionality for that facade. So that is why this was the character. So all those horizontal projection, and if you see those elements which are horizontal elements, they provide me enough sun shading, but they give me that particular sea view. And the block which is there in the front, where Marathi Bhasha Bhavan is written, that is the auditorium. And you can see those different floor-to-floor heights of the floors. This is a second project. This we are designing in a place initially at Palanpur. So in Himachal Pradesh, the project was supposed to be a garden, a hanging garden, which will represent 28 states and 9 union territories state flowers. So every state has got one state flower, and this garden, the place, had to represent all of them. So the whole concept was started with the location, and we finalized a location inside the Agricultural University in Palanpur, so that the students can take care of those gardens. This was the surrounding. We studied the climate, and the concept was lotus. And if you know the geometry of the lotus, we just converted that into geometrical diagram. So the pedestal, which is those stepped plaza, and then I had those 8 triangular water bodies, and the exoskeleton, which was a steel structure, and the exoskeleton had those internal ring corridors, and externally there were those petals. This whole diagram, it's a complicated diagram, so it was generated through a parametric definition. Everything, whatever you saw in that 3-dimensional, was generated out of this. So we never drafted a single line out of it, and we just wrote this algorithm there. Inside, almost like 30,000 square foot of a column-free space. We had a lot of working on structure. Once the concept is approved, it will become very difficult to execute that. Girish Dravid was the structural engineer for this. He did that building you said in the morning, right? This whole skeleton like this, and everything with deck sheet and slab on top of it. The structural consultants' slides. So we had to consider a lot of things, particularly when it comes to steel structure, and along with soil and garden. Then corrosion is something which is very important. You'll have to take care of that. But the form is very stable. So when I gave it to the structural engineer, he said, Vivek, I don't need to think whether this building is going to be stable or not. Itself, because of the exoskeleton, the form is so stable, I'm just going to run a minor run for this structural purpose. So this is, again, the structural framing at different levels. A Statue of Unity, but then he's going to consider something similar. And then when we actually went into the detailing of it, the landscape architect and the horticulturist, they started raising the issues, like all these flowers are not just shrubs, most of them are trees. And then their requirement of weather, size of the tree, everything was varying. And then the details, we need to do a lot of detailing for that. So then how to control the environment, and then automation required for that. If you see the petal, the hollow portion of the petal is going to be used for a lot of that engineering, Although you see only the top portion, there is lot of things which are going to happen in the bottom. And then the complete greenhouse will be with the smart sensors. And because this is first of its kind development, and the total budget was less than 100 crores, but then we are very confident that Himachal Pradesh is a state which gives priority to tourism, and this particular project is going to fetch a lot of tourists. They are going to attract a lot of tourists. So this will become certainly the best location where people will visit. Second project, the third project is already under construction. The story started with Prashant Bhai calling me one day, and he referred me to some group, and this project was at that time was in the initial phase. So we participated in a competition, and this was again a site in Himachal Pradesh, a very picturesque site. So we started with the hill of 25 hectares, and this whole layout was developed on basis something similar to what you were telling me in the morning, that Chardham project. So here the idea is to have all 12 Jyotirlingas in one place, and then we have got 110 feet tall Shiva statue, and this whole thing is visible from Mandi market. So the road which goes towards Manali, on the turn, this very picturesque site is there. It's 910 feet tall hillock, and I've got the exact nose of that hill now. So we designed the whole thing with two options, and one was a lotus concept, the other one was Om. Again, the symbolism came in picture, and somehow the chief minister liked Om. But then by the time we got the site was reduced to 9.5 hectares from 25 hectares. So we had to cramp up the whole thing into that 9.5 hectares. So when we started the design, we had to study a lot what is the background of this Shaivism tradition, and then the attributes of Lord Shiva. Like every element in Lord Shiva has got some meaning. So whether it's third eye, the crescent moon, Ashish, or Ganga, everything, the blue throat, serpent, drum, that Damru they call, and Nandi. So everything has got some meaning, and we wanted to put everything, all this symbolism into the entire layout. Then we studied the different events into Shiva's life, and we wanted them to be incorporated in the layout itself. This is a shloka of 12 Jyotirlingas. Initially there were 64 Jyotirlingas, but finally they decided that 12 Jyotirlingas are the most powerful ones, and this is the site. So we have got this corner. The whole thing is hill. So on one side there is a valley. On the other side it's a not that steep kind of valley, but it's a valley. And then I have got a river which is encircling that entire hill. And we all know what is the importance of Om in Hinduism. So now when we put that Om, many people will think, who is going to see Om? There is a helipad on the top of the hill, in the rear side. If anybody knows about Mandi, the only way you can approach Mandi is through helicopter. So, of course, other than road. So that helicopter, that helipad is just behind my site, and there is a cable car which is proposed and it's under process, and this is the view I'm going to get from the cable car. That is why the whole purpose of making this Om and the trident and everything, that makes sense. And then this thing goes up, and there are a series of steps that take you to the goal, which is the statue, 110 feet tall Shiva statue. When you enter, there is this Ganesh Plaza, and then we call it Ganga Kund, and it goes inside. On the other side, we have this orientation center where there will be kind of initial information people will be given. There is a food court, and because Shivji is Pashupatinath, you will see a lot of these animals. They are surrounding this Damru, we call it Damru Mandala. And then all these Jyotirlingas, most of them are to the scale, and which are too big, we had to scale them down a bit. And then different lakes and these kunds, they are going to collect the rainwater, and we are going to harvest that. So we have got these 6 kundas in the entire layout. And then we call this whole path as Moksha path, because finally the goal is to reach to Moksha. So when we started excavation, in fact, they could not do the entire survey because on one side there was a steep hill and there was a huge jungle. So when I went for the first time on the site, they said, "Sir, please don't go that side. There was a leopard scene." Still, I went inside with few people, but then it was so dark and so plantation was so thick, so we could not go inside. So survey was not possible. Once the survey was started, somehow we saw that the slope was 1:2, and below there is a valley. So to actually dilute the slope, because if that is 1:2 slope, you cannot really work on that particular site. And the retaining wall, if you know about the strata in Himachal Pradesh, it's a fissured rock. So the retaining wall height was going like very high. So we had to scoop out the top portion to dilute the slope on the sides. So you can see we actually cut down the hill in such a way that the side slopes are diluted. A lot of iterations were done, working in 3-dimensional was done, and we calculated the excavation quantity because this was item rate kind of contract. So we had to actually calculate the excavation in such kind of terrain. So you see the existing terrain and now the final terrain is something which is totally different. So we actually shifted the soil inside only, and actually there is no debris which is coming or excavated earth coming out of the site. There was a point of time when we were stuck up and we were not actually getting the grip of the subject. So we had a Zoom meeting, and Prashant Bhai took this responsibility. He said, "I'll give one sketch." And he made a wonderful sketch on his iPad digitally in 2 days. And again, we came out of that, this thing deadlock, and we worked further on that. Thanks to Prashant Bhai. So this is that orientation center, museum kind of arrangement. I actually will have to again go back to your Gandhi Dham there and study that. Multimedia we'll have to use, then food court. And then we actually measured each and every temple, taking dimension of each and every temple in the lockdown was a task by itself. 9 out of 12 temples, RCC is complete. So that we had different methods and means of doing this. So we had a lot of interaction with different Sompuras, Stapatis and Shilpis. And we came up with the idea where the internal structure will be RCC, the external will be cladded with stone. Depending upon the budget and the cost of the stone and the surface required, we have got detailed out every inch of the temple, every temple. And we have used multimedia kind of thing. So we have got even plaster in some place which looks like stone, but majority of it is stone. The scale, like I said, maximum majority of them are 1:1 or 1:1.33. And this is the technology, construction technology, where internal is concrete, multimedia, what we used. Statue of Shiva has also started on site. Again, I'll have to discuss with you. We are going to do the same mistake. They want it in concrete. So yesterday we were discussing about that in that your project in Sikkim. Every garden, we have got different theme for that. And again, because this is one of its kind spiritual complex. After Sikkim is for Char Dham, but this is for 12 Jyotirlingas, much bigger and much wider in scope, and more visibility is there. This is again we are thinking that this is going to fetch a lot of value in terms of tourism, and this being the constituency of CM becomes the very important project for the state. Thank you.